October 7, 2023. The Palestinian militant group Hamas launches a surprise attack on Israel. Over 250 civilians are kidnapped. Israel goes into total panic and strikes back immediately. That's how this war began. And now, it's June 2025. The war? Still not over. Yes, it's been that long. You might ask, why? How can this conflict just never seem to end? Well, to truly understand, you've got to go beyond the images of missiles and firefights. You need background knowledge. And why is that? Because this war is older than bullets. It's religion versus religion. Judaism versus Islam. They're fighting in the name of God. Even God must be exhausted at this point. And there's something else. Israel is a truly unique country. When a war ends, they don't just say, phew, that's over and move on. They do a full self-review. Yes, seriously. Self-reflection, self-investigation, self-tribunal. Did our soldiers cross the line during combat? Could we have avoided civilian casualties? They immediately launch an inquiry. I mean, what kind of country does that? Even the Prime Minister isn't immune. They show up in court, bow their heads, and say, yes, Your Honor. Though whether they're actually sorry is another story. So if we want to truly understand this war, this tragedy, we need something faster than bullets. A solid understanding of the background, religion, history, politics, emotion, misunderstanding, revenge. It's all woven together into one tangled mess. To put it simply, this isn't your typical he started it kind of fight. It's more like, you kicked us out in the early 1900s. No, it was our ancestors' land first. This conflict has been brewing for over a century. So, what should we do now? How did this war even start? And is there any way to end it? That's the question we all need to ask. There may not be a perfect answer, but asking the right questions, that's how we begin. Remember, friends, the world looks different, depending on how much you understand. Now it's your turn. Let's gather our wisdom, and slowly start unraveling this massive knot. Are you ready? Let's all take one more deep breath. Inhale, exhale. Nice. Alright then, into the conflict between Israel and Palestine, and the war waged in the name of the gods. Let's go. The war is over, but the courtroom's just getting started. A story of how Israel puts its own wars on trial. The war is over. The rockets stopped. The jets came home, and while the world exhales, in Israel, something strange starts to happen. The Supreme Court pulls out a map, and judges, they're lacing up boots. That's right. In this country, war doesn't really end with the ceasefire. It just shifts from the battlefield to the courtroom. A new kind of war begins, a legal one. Did we fight the right fight? Israel asks itself a question most countries never do. Did we fight the right war? In the right way? The bullets may have hit their targets, but now, the court aims for something else. The truth. Who made the call? Why did they do it? And who's accountable? The inquiry begins. There are 6 words that send chills down a politician's spine in Israel. A state commission has been formed. That's when things get real. The Chief Justice handpicks the chair. Generals, ministers, even Mossad agents get summoned. That rifle you were holding last week, yeah, you're trading it in for a stack of documents. 1973, the Yom Kippur War. This was Israel's wake-up call. Egypt and Syria launched a surprise attack on Yom Kippur, the holiest day of the year. While people were praying for forgiveness, tanks were rolling in. The intel community had warned them, but the leaders said, nah, it won't happen. It happened. Nearly 3,000 dead. Massive national embarrassment and public fury. The Granite Commission was formed, and for the first time ever, high-ranking officers were officially shown the door. Even Prime Minister Golda Meir stepped down, not with a bang, but with a resignation letter. 2006, the Second Lebanon War. You'd think they'd learned their lesson by now, right? No. Hezbollah kidnapped 2 Israeli soldiers, and the whole thing spiraled into a full-blown war. 34 days of rocket fire. Soldiers moving through forests, cities, without a clear plan. It was chaos. The Winograd Committee later said it plainly. This war had no clear goals, and no strategy, no prison sentences. But the careers of Prime Minister Olmert and his team finished. Game over. Operation Cast Lead, Justice in the Rubble. The IDF launched airstrikes on Gaza. The goal? Take out Hamas rocket sites. The result? 1,400 civilian deaths. UN schools, hospitals, even mosques hit. And white phosphorus? Yeah, that too. The world was outraged. Enter the Goldstone report. Both sides committed violations, but Israel more so. Israel responded with over 150 internal investigations. Some soldiers were charged. The generals? Not so much. The ICC? Held back. Then came the twist. Goldstone himself retracted parts of the report. He said, there wasn't enough evidence Israel intentionally targeted civilians. Because even in war, justice is messy. Baggots, the court that halts wars. Israel's Supreme Court has a special section called Baggots. This is where law meets war, literally. Human rights groups can file emergency petitions during combat. And if the court agrees, the army stops. Yes, that actually happens. House demolitions. Let's say a Palestinian militant attacks Israelis. The military wants to blow up his house, while his family's still living in it. The military says, it's a deterrent. Rights groups say, it's collective punishment. Baggots says, it's legal, if civilian harm is minimized. A legal balancing act. On the edge of a sword. Targeted killings. Drone strike on a Hamas leader? Totally possible. But only if he's a valid military target. The strike is proportional. You've got intel, and you file a post-strike report. Even assassinations come with a checklist. Kill, but make it legal. Final thoughts. Part 1. In Israel, war ends with guns, but continues in court. Because in a country where everyone serves, justice has to serve everyone in return. This is how Israel holds itself accountable. But now, let's take it a step further. Whose side is the law on? The ideal versus the reality. So, the system sounds amazing, right? Independent judges, military oversight, citizens filing lawsuits mid-war. But here's the twist. Neutrality? Easier said than done. Case 1, Sabra and Shatila. Sharon stays, then rises. A massacre in a refugee camp in Lebanon. The killers? Christian militias. But Israel had let them in. The Kahan Commission blamed Defense Minister Ariel Sharon. He resigned from that job, then became Prime Minister. So yeah, neutrality doesn't always mean consequences. Case 2, Winograd. No accountability. Another war. Another investigation. The committee pointed fingers. Called it a failure of leadership. Olmert didn't budge. He only left office later. When he was convicted of bribery. The war didn't take him down. Corruption did. Case 3, 2023, the judiciary under attack. Enter Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. He proposed a judicial reform plan. Limit the court's power to block government decisions. Effectively neuter baggots. Judges? Furious citizens? Outraged army reservists took to the streets. It was the biggest threat to Israeli judicial independence ever. In 2023, even justice needed a flak jacket. Final thoughts, Part 2. Israel has one of the most unique legal systems in the world. It puts war, politics, and even itself on trial. But true neutrality, that's not built on systems alone. It takes courage. It takes public scrutiny. And it takes leaders who actually believe in the rule of law. Because at the end of the day, the law treats everyone equally. Yeah, that only works when everyone's actually under the law. Justice is blind, unless someone pokes her in the eye. A war called Justice Israel on trial after the guns go silent. Where the battlefield ends, and the courtroom begins. The war is over. But this time the stage has changed. The Israeli soldier takes off the uniform, and reaches for a suit. Why? Because the next battle is in court. Welcome to the court of world opinion. The world starts asking questions. Was that a war crime? Airstrikes on Gaza, targeted assassinations, demolished homes, retaliatory rocket raids. Now, it's the UN, the ICC, and global NGOs holding the mic. This wasn't a battle, it was a crime. You intentionally killed civilians, didn't you? Indiscriminate bombing? That violates international law. Israel response: no, it was self-defense. and we conduct our own investigations. International law versus Israel's two worlds. According to international law, principle of distinction protects civilians. Proportionality, don't use a cannon to kill a mosquito. Necessity, only strike if you must. But Israel has a counterpoint. Hamas built their bases next to schools and hospitals. They hide behind civilians. We've been hit too. And yes, we embed legal advisors in real time during military operations. That's right. Israeli officers ask mid-operation, legally speaking, can I hit this target? Goldstein versus Israel, a plot twist in The Hague. In 2009, UN-appointed Judge Richard Goldstein released a report on Israel's Operation Cast Lead in Gaza. He wrote that Israel may have intentionally targeted civilians. War crimes. The world erupted. Israel? Furious. Political slander, they said. But in 2011, Goldstein partially retracted it. Turns out, there wasn't enough evidence to prove intent. In other words, guys, maybe I overreacted. Maybe I went a bit too far. And the world blinked. Wait, so what does that mean for the entire UN report? The ICC and the legal tug of war, the International Criminal Court, investigates war crimes and crimes against humanity. When Palestine joined the ICC in 2015, Israel's military actions came under scrutiny. But Israel stands firm. We're not a member, and our internal legal system works just fine. Classic line, the ICC is a political theater, anti-Israel by default. Critics, though, fire back. If that's true, then why so many civilian deaths, and no senior officials held accountable? That question still echoes. Israel's tightrope diplomacy. Israel walks a high-stakes diplomatic tightrope. To the US and EU, we're the front line of democracy. To the domestic rights, security is non-negotiable. To international critics, we investigate ourselves more than you ever do. Translation: we're not saying we're perfect, but have you checked your own record lately? Inside Israel, the quiet battle over justice. You think war is for soldiers and justice is for judges? Not in Israel. Here, everyone has an opinion on post-war justice. Politicians, journalists, everyday citizens, even Twitter users. Why? Because justice doesn't live in a vacuum. It lives on Channel 2 at 8 p.m. A nation that wore the uniform. Almost every Israeli has worn a uniform or knows someone who has. Reservists. Friends of reservists. Reservists' moms. Try telling one of those moms your son should stand trial. Legal logic doesn't stand a chance against maternal outrage. In Israel, war can win or lose an election. Don't believe it? Look at the record. 1973 Yom Kippur War, Golda Meir resigns. 2006 Lebanon War, Olmert collapses. 2014 Gaza War, who can be tough or on Hamas? At some point, the question shifts. Was this really a military operation or a campaign strategy? Was it national security or just good PR? The media trial. Forget court rulings. Forget commission reports. Verdicts in Israel, they drop at 8 p.m., right after the opening headline. Tonight's news can convict you or clear your name. The court of public opinion delivers faster than any tribunal. Politics runs the numbers. Politicians don't think in terms of law. They ask, will the public like this? Should I defend the soldiers or distance myself? Will cooperating with a UN probe cost me votes? Justice moves on logic. Politics? On applause. The final jury, public opinion. Yes, Israel has a strong legal system. But when the moment comes, the final weight shifts with polls, not legal briefs. Who committed the crime? Judges may ask, but voters already answered. In conclusion, in Israel, wars start with bullets, end with legal memos, and get judged by headlines and ballots. It's a country of law and justice, but also of public mood and political instinct. A judge might sentence a general, but if the people call him a hero, that sentence disappears after 3 news cycles. Justice doesn't collapse, but sometimes politics sits on top of it. Justice isn't broken, it's just occasionally stepped on. So what do we learn? Israel's post-war legal system is complex, conflicted, and deeply human. It's a battlefield of its own where truth, Law, politics, and perception all wrestle for dominance. Justice is alive, but sometimes it's hiding in the news scroll. The man called Netanyahu, the magician of power. On October 7, 2023, Hamas launched a surprise attack and kidnapped a total of 251 Israelis. Through negotiations and military operations, 148 hostages were rescued, and 44 bodies were returned to Israel. As of May 2025, 58 people are still being held hostage, and Israeli intelligence believes that 20 of them are still alive. As we've discussed before, Israel is a country that conducts extremely thorough self-examinations after every war. But with hostages still in Hamas's hands, can this war really end now, at this moment? Given how the Israeli system works, today, we'll dive into the man leading Israel through the heart of this crisis. Let's begin the journey together. The longest-serving prime minister, ever, in Israeli politics. There's one name you just can't escape. Bibi, real name? Benjamin Netanyahu. But everyone calls him Bibi, because we've seen him for that long. When you say prime minister in Israel, you basically picture Bibi's face etched in stone. He's not just been around forever. He's been indicted, ousted, and still came back. People ask, how does this guy always survive? Let's find out. Special Forces to Ivy League. Bibi isn't your average politician. He served in Sayeret Motkol, Israel's top-tier special forces. Real missions, real danger. His older brother, Yonatan Netanyahu, was killed in the famous 1976 Entebbe raid, while rescuing hostages. That changed Bibi. He took the torch and became even tougher. Then, he went to the US, MIT for architecture and economics, Harvard too. Basically, the full American elite package. There's even video of him speaking perfect English. Middle East conflict, you get the vibe. Future diplomat energy. Youngest prime minister in town. In 1996, at just 46, he became Israel's youngest PM. The slogan? Strong Bibi. Bibi wins. And yeah, he won. He played the security card, saying the peace path of Rabin and Peres was risky. But politics? It's not just about strength. 3 years later, boom, he's out. Still, this man? He doesn't go quietly. Return of the comeback king. Fast forward to 2009. Bibi's back in power. And this time, he stays. 15 years straight. Longest serving prime minister in Israeli history. He owns the stage. Says things like, we must rely only on ourselves. Iran is building a nuclear bomb. Palestinians won't even recognize us. That becomes the Bibi brand. Strong Israel. Security first. But here's the real question, how does he keep surviving? The answer? Political wizardry. The grand coalition magician. No party in Israel ever wins an outright majority. So every government has to be a coalition. And Bibi? He'll team up with anyone. Right-wing extremists? Ultra-Orthodox parties? Sure, bring 'em in. There's this one story. In 2019, he failed to win a majority. So next election, he promised to ease Sabbath transport restrictions, just to get ultra-Orthodox support. They backed him. People went, wait, that party too? Yep, Bibi knows how to make unlikely alliances. And he does it again and again. Every political crisis, new coalition. Power intact. Palestinians? Block, not talk. For Bibi, Palestinians aren't partners for peace. He doesn't really do the two-state solution thing. Instead, build more settlements. Put up more security walls. If Hamas fires a rocket, flatten Gaza. It's not about negotiation. It's containment. The world criticizes him. You've gone too far. This is a humanitarian disaster. Bibi's response? Israel must survive. I'm protecting this country. And guess what? Many Israelis, especially conservatives, agree. War and politics. The Hamas attack. October 7, 2023. Hamas launches a surprise attack from Gaza. Hundreds killed. Hundreds taken hostage. Israel's in shock. And the people ask, why weren't we warned? Didn't you see this coming? Bibi says nothing, at first. Then, he declares all-out war. Airstrikes. Infrastructure cut off. Troops on the ground. This is a war for our very existence, he says. But over time, the backlash grows. What about the hostages? This war's dragging on too long. Is he using it to distract from his trial, judicial reform or legal escape plan? Yep, Bibi's on trial, bribery, fraud, breach of trust. So what does he do? He pulls out the judicial reform card. On the surface, the courts have too much power. They're hurting democracy. But the whispers grow louder. Wait, is this just to dodge his own trial? Protests erupt. Reservists refuse duty. Startups pack up and leave. The economy wobbles. The streets boil. But Bibi? Calm as ever. I'm protecting the nation, he says. The diplomatic showman. On the international stage, Bibi shines. His bromance with Trump? Legendary. He got the US to recognize Jerusalem as Israel's capital. Helped broker the Abraham Accords with Arab states. Iran? His favorite target. He constantly warns they're building nukes. In 2015, he even went over Obama's head and gave a solo speech to the US Congress, bashing the Iran deal. It was a global moment. Bibi in the spotlight. But now he's been left off the guest list. Spring 2025. Donald Trump takes a victory lap through the Middle East. Saudi Arabia, UAE, Qatar. He clinks glasses with Crown Prince MBS. Signs a $140 billion arms deal. And Israel, nowhere to be seen. Netanyahu? Not even mentioned. Wait, did everyone just hang out without me? Israeli officials are scrambling. We've always been America's closest ally. Why weren't we invited? Trump used to be Bibi's guy. He gave him Jerusalem, the Golan Heights, those sweet normalization deals. But this time, he cozies up to Saudi, lifts sanctions on Syria, reopens talks with Iran. From Israel's view, it's like watching your best friend become someone else's best man. When even Trump seems distant. Publicly, Bibi says, me and Trump? Still tight. But his face says otherwise. Saudi deals threaten Israel's military edge. Syria's back in play, meaning more Iranian influence. And the Iran nuclear deal? That's Israel's red line. Media headlines scream, Trump's new Middle East no Bibi required. What's the next trick? Magician? Bibi's not new to crises, so he plays his usual cards. Iran's going nuclear. We must prepare for war. Our survival is at stake. Cue the security alarm. Rally the people. But will it work this time? Hamas war fatigue. Judicial reform backlash. Young Israelis are tuning him out. And worst of all, if Trump's no longer in his corner, where does Bibi go next? The magician meets a new reality. For years, Bibi survived every crisis like a magic act. Bribery scandals, coalition magic, war criticism, security speech spell, legal threats, judicial sleight of hand. But now, the game has changed. The world has shifted. Public mood has shifted. And even his old friends are looking elsewhere. Maybe for the first time, Bibi isn't in control of the stage. Finale. The man's name is Netanyahu. He's still standing, but the spotlight's starting to dim. Off stage, Trump is toasting with MBS. So, is this the end? Or does the magician have one last trick up his sleeve? Stay tuned. The show isn't over yet. In Israeli politics, it never is.